Hi, everybody. My name is Joe Maldonado. I am on the City Council in Fitchburg. I just want to take a moment to welcome you all to the Teen Center Public Workshop. This has been a long time coming. This is a manifestation of about 6 months of work and then about another year of work before that. But we're here, and we're glad that you're here with us. This is a small but mighty crowd, and I'm really excited to show you the upcoming work that's happening and the work that's been done. So I'm just going to give you a little overview of what this next hour is going to look like. I'm going to start off with some introductions just to show you kind of who's all been working on this project. Then we're going to talk about the project overview, about what's been included throughout this process, what we learned, and we'll open it up to you to be able to ask questions. So without further ado, I'm going to start off by introducing our interns. If you are an intern on the project, can you please just come up to the front so we can get you recognized by this crowd? All right. Awesome. So what we'll do is we'll just pass the mic. If you could just give your name, what grade you're in, what school you go to.
My name is Lindsay Anderson, and I go to Savannah Oaks.
My name is Nevaeh Grimmer. I'm in 9th grade, and I go to Verona Area High School.
My name is Marcus, and I'm in 8th grade, and I go to James C. Wright Middle School.
My name is Ablenia Espinosa Brito. I am a junior at Oregon High School.
I'm Ojazwi Pasache, and I'm a junior at Verona Area High School.
All right, thank you all. So these are, you all can have a seat. These are 5 out of our 8 student interns who have been working not only twice a month in meetings that we have, but also doing a lot of work between that time to be able to move this project forward. And then I'd like to bring up Taylor and Eli to speak. Yeah, just
Hi, everybody. My name is Taylor, and I work for UW Extension. It has just been a wonderful, wonderful experience and pleasure working with these 8 interns and just supporting them in the work that they're doing, which you will see in the presentation.
Hi, everyone. My name is Eli Sarofsky. I'm a AmeriCorps member serving with the Healthy Kids Collaborative, and fortunate enough to be a part of this great team. The interns are doing some outstanding work, as you all have seen out there, so really proud of this.
All right, thank you all. So just to kind of tell you a little bit about why we've got a lot of different people, a lot of different organizations involved. Each organization is sort of bringing something different to the table. So, you know, I'm representing the city of Fitchburg. Obviously, it takes policy and investment to be able to make this work happen. But also, the University of Wisconsin-Madison brings a lot of expertise in the field of positive youth development. And UW Health, Healthy Kids Collaborative, has a lot of experience in involving young people in understanding, analyzing their communities, and being able to make them healthier and safer. And then lastly, I will introduce our fearless leader, the one that's been making this happen, Annette Miller.
Thanks, Joe. Hi, everyone. Annette Miller with Equity by Design. And I also have with me my colleague, Matias Limos Castillo. And then who's not here but has been helping us behind the scenes are Myra Medrano and Matthew Brongen. So they make all of this work look seamless and magical on our team. Equity by Design really focuses in 2 areas. We're about change management in organizations, making sure that they're inclusive and they create belonging along racial, ethnic, cultural, linguistic lines. So we spend time doing that work, and then we also do what you see here today, which is called public engagement. So we really believe in the voices of the community we work really hard to make sure that we center voices, in particular BIPOC voices, Black, Indigenous, people of color, and other intersectionalities of identity. So that's really important to us. So we're really excited to be working on this project. And quite frankly, I really love the planning team and the partnership, because this is how we're having amazing results, which you'll see a little bit later. But it's great to be here, and I'm glad that all of you are here. Matthias, did you want to say anything? Okay, just wave. All right. Thanks, Joe.
All right, thank you. So let me just give you a little rundown of how this all started. So in the city of Fitchburg, we have a vast array of different landscapes. So we have about half of our geographic area is farmland, and the other half is a mix of really dense urban areas, suburban areas. And with all of these different types of folks coming together from all walks of life, unfortunately, we also have a lot of disparities. We have differences in how different folks live their lives, what access they have to really important outcomes of health. So things that really make for a good, high quality of life. And the city of Fitchburg a few years ago identified 3 neighborhoods within the city that have high levels of disparities, whether it be by health care, access to food, access to youth services, access to transportation, and identified not only a plan, but also putting resources into those neighborhoods. And that project is known as the Healthy Neighborhoods Initiative. So part of that involves an actual plan for what it is that we need to do and how we need to invest in our infrastructure to be able to make that happen. How do we need to build spaces in our community that make our neighborhoods better and more thriving for everybody in the city? Another thing that's involved is a small grant program. So if there are organizations that work in these communities that are doing work in those areas, they're actually eligible for up to $15,000 in grants every year. But the really important piece is in that plan, there's a recommendation to actually have dedicated spaces in each neighborhood to be able to serve those communities. So one of those neighborhoods is where I live, the Belmar area, which is east of Verona Road, includes the Allied Duns Marsh neighborhood. Another area is the neighborhood along North Fitch-Hatchery Road, north of McKee Road. And then the third neighborhood is actually this neighborhood where you're sitting in right now. So we have a lot of people that live here. We have folks that are homeowners, we have folks that are renters, we have a lot of young people, but there's a lot of things that are missing in this neighborhood to be able to really give folks the quality of life that's needed. And one of those spaces is youth, places for youth to go. Right now we're sitting in an area that's part of the Verona School District. We have hundreds of youth between the ages of 12 and 18, and there's no space for them to go. So really what happened a couple of years ago is that myself and some other colleagues on the Fitchburg City Council introduced a plan that within 5 years we would actually have a space for older youth. And that plan came with steps. So the first step is the step that you're witnessing right now, which is actually asking the community, particularly young people, what they would want to see in a space like that. The next step would actually be creating a design, hiring an architect to be able to build a space. The third step would be actually finding organizations that would be able to meet the needs that are identified in this study. And then the last step would actually be finding space here in our neighborhood where we can actually build a teen center. And we have several pillars that are identified in the Healthy Neighborhoods Initiatives. I won't go through all of them, but essentially in the Healthy Neighborhoods Initiative plan, there are recommendations under each of these areas that we need to meet in order to make our neighborhoods more healthy and safe. I'll show you the goals of this project. So the key goal of this project is to actually inform the development of a teen center. So we want to capture the voices of folks that live in this community, that work in this community, folks that work with youth, and the most important part is engaging youth in that process. The Teen Center should be a neighborhood and community gathering place, and it should have several different elements to it, including an indoor space, a space devoted to families, and a space that's nearby some sort of a recreational park. So if you're familiar with this neighborhood and how it's sort of laid out, we have a very small park about 4 blocks from here. And if you go up Anton Drive, left on Williamsburg Way, and go down about half a mile, you've got a much bigger park. But for the majority of residents that live, within blocks of here, there's not a lot that's really close by in terms of a park and green space. But we do have a lot of open land very close to here that could potentially be developed into a park. So that stuff will come later. But for now, when we're thinking about what this space should look like, these should be the 3 things that are included. And then the actual engagement should include teens and should include folks who are underrepresented in the decisions that are usually made by the city and by other municipal and local governments. So with that, I will talk a little bit, I'll actually hand it off to Annette to talk a little bit about the process that Equity by Design has been taking to be able to make this happen.
Was there anything that you wanted to finish up, though, in terms of the overview?
No, thank you. Yep.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Joe. I also just want to quickly go back to this last piece, that the engagement should center the voice of teen demographic and underrepresented populations. One thing that we heard crystal clearly is that teens' voices are not really listened to. As adults, we do a lot of marginalizing of our youth. As adults, we feel like we know better, we have more experience. A lot of times, many adults who have raised children, we feel like we know what's best, right? And so we just have this attitude that when we're interacting with youth, it doesn't feel very good. And we have to realize as adults that we have places and spaces that we can go to get rest, to pour back into ourselves, to be able to get the energy to renew ourselves, to feel fresh, to be able to have the energy to just have a good life. If you're fortunate, to be in that space. So we don't go to work expecting that it's at work that we're going to get rejuvenated, right? Like we look to our home, or we look to friends and family and going and doing things and interacting with people, right? As adults, we do that. What we don't understand as adults is that what do teens have that's similar? As adults, we think that school is that, and that's not true. School for teens is like work for adults, and I just think that we kind of lose sight of that. And so school, yes, it can be a place of meeting up with friends, but really it's designed for learning. So when we're talking about our youth who are going from, really young little people like elementary age, and now during their teen years, they're expected to become adults just like that. It's a very stressful time between the age of 11 and 18 and even getting to 21 and beyond. So where do they go to really understand themselves, right? Where do they go to learn, to grow, to develop, and to rest, and just have a space where there's no judgment, right? And have a space where they can just be with other people who are having a similar experience and might be able to relate to what's happening to them. They want a break, right? And so one of the things that we have to understand as adults is that if we're going to do that, if we're going to create a teen center, then we need to make sure that we listen to the voices of the teens. The teen center should not be through the vision of an adult saying this is what teens want. It should be what do the teens want, so that we make sure that that space is utilized well. So I felt like I should add that. So from an engagement perspective, what did we do for this project? So Equity by Design, again, working with our planning team, we set up a pre-design stage where we went out and we just had some small conversations to try to understand what's the engagement going to look like to work with teens. The other thing we did is we created 2 online surveys. We created one for teens, and I shouldn't say we, the teens designed the survey for teens, and then Equity by Design with the planning team developed the one for the community. So we did that. The next thing that we did is we set up targeted focus groups where the teens actually facilitated conversations with teens. And so we did that actually here in this space. And so we're actually on goal to meet our reach of having had focus groups with 50 people. The other thing that we did is we said we need to have 2 public sessions. The first one was in December when we kicked everything off. We had an open house, again, in this lovely space, to be able to be close to the community, to really let them know that this is happening. And then it's the one that you are here today experiencing, and for those of you watching. So these have been our 2 public sessions that we've had. And then we've made the open house and the public session available online. And then, of course, we've been using our social and marketing efforts to reach out into the digital sphere, along with our interns. So this has been the calendar. So stage 1 was hire the interns, promote the open house, and get input, preliminary input and insight from the community. Stage 2 is when we launched the survey, which happened in February. And then in March, the youth did their youth focus groups. And then in April, we did the small focus groups, and then we drafted the values and the themes. So actually today, the purpose of today is to show you all this work that's been happening since October of last year. So today in the month of May, we're here to do the public workshop. And then finally, there'll be a final report, which will be prepared and submitted to the Fitchburg Council for review. So this is the fun stuff. What did we learn? So for those of you who are here with us in the room, you were able to take a tour out in the gallery to see all the work that the interns have been curating and collating since this project started. The key piece is that like we said, we did a focus group, and then we did 2 surveys, and then we listened to the interns. And so what you're going to see today is a culmination of all of that. So what did the interns say? So as you know, we have 8 interns, and what the interns said is that what they really want to focus on in terms of values is valuing mental health, creating a safe space, diversity is really important, community and connection is really important, educational resource support was important, student growth, space for fun, and can compromise. So this was what the interns had developed as what they want to focus on. And then they talked about what do they care about in a much bigger sense, which is they care about the neighborhood, they care about diversity, they care about jobs and education, they wonder and worry about safety, and then the environment. How is the space going to make them feel when they're in this teen center? So that was what we learned from the interns. Then the survey data. So we had 396 participants do either the teen and the adult survey. And I have to give props to the teens because they outpaced the adults. So the teens had over 200 surveys, and the community survey, we brought in 176. So I was super proud of the interns and their hard work in really pushing the teen survey. So as a total, 396 survey responses. So what do you need to know? When it came to the teens, 35% of the teens actually live in Fitchburg, but 86% actually all go to Verona High School, right? And we know that Verona High School is going to be like the big feeder for the teen center in general, though it can have a longer reach, like to the Madison School District and perhaps even to Oregon. in terms of who was completing the survey, we had 36% BIPOC, which is Black, Indigenous, people of color. We had 60% female. We had 27% LGBTQ. And then 45% of the teens were in the age range of 14 to 16. And another 39% were between the ages of 11 and 13. And again, this is all due to the diligent work of our interns to get this really great representation and spread. We rarely see this in just doing community surveys. So seriously, great job, guys. From the community's perspective, in terms of survey completion, 64% of community members who were ages 20 and older live in Fitchburg. And then there was another 27% who live near Fitchburg. 21% of respondents were BIPOC, another 7% were LGBTQ, and then 67% female. And then between the ages of 35 and 44, were represented by 37%, and then those between the ages of 45 and 64, another 23%. Quite frankly, this is a wonderful, if we're gonna listen to the community, this is a great demographic profile. So, what did we learn? The first question we had to ask is there teen space in Fitchburg? So we're talking about a teen center. Well, if we're going to build a teen center, we first need to find out where can teens go already right now, presently. And 45% of adults said there is no teen space or they don't know of any teen space in Fitchburg, okay? And then 47% of adults with kids said they don't know of any teen space, and they don't know, and they said, no, there is no teen space, and another 36% said, I don't know. Like, I don't know, right? Like, so the adults who are supposed to know stuff don't know, or they say, without a doubt, no, there's no space. And then 50% of adults who engage with teens similarly said, there is no teen space in Fitchburg, and another 32% said, I don't know. So the bottom line is 80% of the adult community who engage with teens or have kids said there is no space in Fitchburg for teens, or they are not aware of space for teens, okay? Next, the question was, do you support teen space in Fitchburg? 80% of adults said we fully support a teen space in Fitchburg, and another 5% said they could live with it. That's 85% of the Fitchburg population said yes. And then 100% of those who said that they support teen space, and I thought this was really wonderful, is that those between the ages of 16 and 17 were at 100%. Those between the ages of 18 and 24, 100% support it. Those between the age of 25 and 34, 97% said they absolutely support a teen space. And for those who are older than the age of 34, 79 to 74% said yes, they support it. That's still a really high percentage. And so it wasn't until the person was over the age of 74 or 75 that it dropped to 63%. And quite frankly, 63% is really a respectable percentage, right? In terms of that's more yes than no. So the punchline here is only 14 people said a teen center is not needed. Okay? So we have 396 surveys, and only 14 people said it is not needed, okay? So the other question that we asked is, okay, so if there's a teen center, do you know people who would utilize it? So 81% of people who identify as Black, Indigenous, people of color said yes. Another 80% who engage with teens, so these are adults who engage with teens, said yes. They know someone who would use the teen center. 83% of those who identify as LGBTQ said yes, they know someone, and 80% of those who identify as female also said yes, they know of someone who would use the teen center. So these were really great numbers. So, of course, we gotta ask the question, so what is your concern with having a teen center? And the two key things that came up was, one, operational support. 48% of white residents said they were concerned about the ability of the teen center to be supported. Only 17% of the Black, Indigenous people of color had that concern. On the flip side, 50% of Black, Indigenous people of color were worried about if the teen center would get capital support. And only 21% of white residents had that concern. And the reason I want to pause this here, because I think this is a real moment for thinking with an equity lens. The reason, so this just goes to show power, privilege, and what it looks like if you're white and what it looks like if you're Black. So from a white perspective, white residents don't really worry about if something's going to happen or not, because in general, if they want something to happen, it's going to happen. But what they're going to worry about is, can we sustain it, right? But they're not worried about if it's going to happen or not. That's not the hurdle for them. That's a given. From a Black, Indigenous people of color perspective, they don't have the ability or the privilege to assume that they will get what they want. So capital is building, development. So they're at, is this even gonna happen for me? Is this even gonna be possible? So when you see that 50% of BIPOC community is saying they're concerned about capital, that's because their experience is that when they want something, they don't get it. And that's a capital issue, okay? Does that make sense, how I've explained that? Okay, I'm glad you nodded yes, Evelini. Okay, all right. So, what should the teen center focus on? So we asked adults we disaggregated the data from the survey, and we found out that adults felt like the teen center should focus on health and mental health, recreation and sports, youth leadership and development. Teens felt that the teen center should focus on living room, chill out space, social and mental health, recreation and sports. LGBTQ and BIPOC community felt like they agreed with the teens on the living room, social and mental health, and recreation, but they also had a very special emphasis also on diversity. So diversity really went up really high when we disaggregated by LGBTQ identity and BIPOC identity. And then when we looked at LGBTQ and adult Black, Indigenous people of color, they also felt that art, music, theater, and dance is something else that also should be considered for the teen center. And for those who identify as non-binary, they were really high scoring on social and mental health. These are just some of the quotes that were from the survey. So from the teen survey, this sounds awesome and I can definitely see myself using it. I think it is an amazing idea. Make sure it can be accessed easily from by any type of person. From the community survey, folks said things like, I think this is such an amazing idea. So many kids in Fitchburg would be happy to have a safe space. Finding the right organizations to program in the space will be critical. Access to the center via transportation is important as well. So these were just some real strong examples of how people were responding when they completed the survey. So focus groups. So right now, as of today, we've had 24 individuals engage in our focus groups. We actually have another group. Joe was able to go to the Juvenile Detention Center and have a small focus group there. And then actually next week, Joe and Matthias are going to go over to West High School and do a couple more. So we'll probably be at about 50 or more after next week. But here's what we know so far in terms of focus group analysis. And basically with focus groups, they've just really emphasized what we were hearing from our interns and also what we're hearing from the survey data. That really the focus on values should be around access to transportation, jobs, safety, diversity, community, family, and home. So family and home was the new sort of value that popped up from the focus groups. And then where they had questions is they were wondering about the technology that would be in the space, wondering about if the furniture was going to be comfortable, wondering about what types of events would be there. Would there be an ability to offer feedback and do vision boards? So really, they're wanting to have their voice in the center of what kind of programming happens on site. They had questions about the hours of the teen center. Again, transportation, how do we get there? And then they also had COVID concerns, which is not a surprise. And then what they want to learn and explore is they're interested in a tech and computer room, childcare, schoolwork to support them, having tutors, mental health, sports, culture, politics, apprenticeships, doctors. So having health, actual health care on site is something that they cared about. They also brought up equity and also that people who are in this space relating to them have lived experience. In terms of the environment, which is in the yellow box, that was about what does the center look like? So it being decorated, having carpets, bean bags, family friendly, reading space, book clubs, age differences, comfortable, fun, video gaming, quiet space, open space, kitchen area, green energy, green space, Wi-Fi, plants, windows, colors, teachers. So just a really nice blend but broad array of environmental concerns that they came up with. So what does all of this data have in common? What they have in common is that when we looked at the different forms of data that we collected, friendship, fun, mental and social health ranked across all the different groups, whether it was interns, adults, teens, LGBTQ, BIPOC, and non-binary. Other areas that also popped up, but not as strong as the first three, but just as important, because one thing we've got to remember is that no teen is homogenous, right? Like we've got a lot of different kinds of teens with different kinds of needs. And so this is what you're seeing as some of those other needs pop up. So diversity, art, theater, music, dance, youth leadership, living room chill out, recreation and sports. So I felt that it was really important for how people could see what they have in common, especially between adults and teens, that recreation and sports really lined up. Mental and social health, as you could imagine, across the board, very, very important. And last but not least, the most important thing that they all have in common is they all support the Teen Center. And so we just have some charts that really just highlighting how across the board, regardless of race, regardless of age, they support the development of the Teen Center. And the green at the top was I don't know, which is really fair, but they didn't say no, which I think is very important. We were very strategic with our survey. We gave people the opportunity to really say if it's a flat out no, but we also gave them the opportunity to say, I don't know, which means I'm not for it and I'm not against it because I don't know, I have questions. But a very small percentage of the population fit that profile. So here is when we ask the question about what are the three values that are important to you, the ones with the three circles are the ones where the friendship, fun, and mental health and health popped up as highly rated, if you want to go to the next one. And then, of course, what type of space formats would you like to see at the teen centers? So the green is absolutely yes. This is means the highest threshold of what they would like to see. So the high-ranking ones was making sure that's recreation, sports, physical well-being, also living room chill-out space, and then also mental and social wellness, so you can actually just see how it turns out. So this is what we learned with collecting all that data. Again, I have never been so proud of a group of teens. The effort and the work that they went through with the support of the Healthy Kids Collaborative and with Taylor through UW Extension was amazing. I really just want to take an opportunity to give a hand to the interns because they really did a good job.
just in parting, what I'd like to do is share a link to the survey. So you can still fill out a survey to give your opinion on this, and to anybody watching in the public, you can do the same. Just hover your phone over that QR code or follow the link at the bottom of this slide. And then finally, if you would like to stay in touch and be informed on the progress of the Fitchburg Teen Center, you can go to tinyurl.com/FTC May 2022. Right. And again, I just want to say a huge thank you to everybody that's been involved in this project, everybody that's advocated for this project. You know, engagement takes time, takes effort, but the payoffs are snowball residual. It gets easier over time the more you do it. So, you know, much appreciated. We'll stick around to answer any last minute questions you have. But again, I appreciate you for coming, and I appreciate the folks on camera watching.